overly long meeting, but I want to keep anybody waiting. First of all, Happy New Year and welcome to the first meeting of the year. This is the Marine Advisory Board meeting on Thursday, January 4th. Couple quick things. Commissioner John Herbst is supposed to be joining us. He's the commissioner of the first district. I'm assuming he's going to walk in. If he does, then we'll simply push things to the side because he has a limited time frame, and it's always great to have them join us. We also have a gentleman should be showing up, and as you all know, the traffic is ridiculous. His name is Pierre Philippe Rougeau, I believe. His PhD. He's the chairman of the Department of Ocean and Mechanical Engineering at FAU. Very gracious individual who's offered to come meet the board and see how FAU might be of service to us in the town. I love it. And so Philippe is, Pierre has said, let me just come and see where I hear you guys and where I might fit in and come back another time. So hopefully he'll be walking in as well. Quick roll call, please, if you're kind enough, Carl.
Mr. Harrison, absent. Mr. Flanagan.
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
Mr. Lynch.
Here.
Ms. Chirelli, absent. Mr. Brunel.
Here.
Ms. Norvell.
Here.
Mr. Franks, absent. Mr. Knott.
Here.
Ms. George.
Here.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Reepholz.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
And Chair Witten.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Jimmy Harrison had knee surgery, and Jimmy obviously always tries to be here, but it was unable to come. So I'm hoping he's watching us on TV. So I hope you feel better, Jimmy. Waterway and crime safety, boating safety report. Anything? Well, first of all, you clearly had the toughest boat parade that you've ever had. But I'm watching Bill's face, and it's such a shame with that, and you could touch on it later. But so curious, how did the month go? And I'm sure that was great to not have to deal with, but I'm sure you had pretty crazy stuff with the storm as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was crime-wise, it was pretty quiet. We answered 28 calls for service, and of those calls for service, we only had one burglary at Cooley's Landing where a bike was stolen off one of the boats in the slopes over there. So no garments taken in December, which is good. We also wrote 41 citations, and not much else really of huge note is happening. I know there's that boat that's been on the beach people have seen, but that's getting taken care of, and nothing else really this month has been too crazy. We've had some weather and stuff, but other than that, it's been a pretty quiet month for us.
Glad to hear. Glad to hear there's nothing to say. Go ahead, Norbert, please.
Yes, Sergeant, my next door neighbor had jet ski stolen
Okay.
with a trailer, and they took the jet ski out. And it's one thing to dive for the years and stuff over there. Apparently, the Marines and the land don't get together on things that have to do with the Marine thing on as far as the things. In other words, you don't get, obviously, what you just reported and stuff, that was not there. That was stolen like last week or the week before.
Yes, right.
So there's no communication, I guess, between the land and the sea and stuff over there. Well, never trying to recover any of the,
So what's supposed to happen is if something like that, if like a boat stolen out of someone's yard, let's say, and a land unit is gonna take that report, then they turn the report in, it goes to the detective bureau. The detective bureau should be contacting us to let us know that they had that case and the details of the case of it. We have been in communication with that. I'll say some things do slip through the cracks, but I'll follow up with the sergeant over there.
yeah, I said, I just wanted you to know that I don't know if there's ever any other incidents where somebody stole canoes or things or paddle boards or whatever else, or how much, what would constitute the jurisdiction on any kind of marine products? I basically would say like jet skis, boats and everything else that are on a trailer.
Yeah.
That are in somebody's yard. So the recovery and stuff over there, I said, you basically don't even know that they're gone. The Marine wouldn't do it,
Yeah,
So
so yeah,
just as a.
I appreciate that. I'll follow up with him on Monday and make
I'll
sure
give you the
that-
address and stuff in there where it was taken.
Yeah, I can get it.
Yeah.
But just so they're remember to funnel us
pretty good sized jet ski, so, and a trailer. So I mean, it wasn't the small little thing. It was worth a few bucks.
Yeah,
Seeing as
Thank you.
Margaret brought that up, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Bruce.
How long of a communication timeline from land finding it to getting it to your offices? What's the timeline on that? Because that can change everything.
I'll say it could vary, but what does happen is when, no matter who takes the report, if the owner has the HIN number of it, then they're gonna put that into teletype.
Yeah.
And in CIC, so that way, anybody in the whole country runs those jet skis, they're gonna know. Normally, what happens is the officer fills out the report, turns the report in, their sergeant gets it, looks at the report. It might have to go back for correction, it might not. You can send it to records, and the records is gonna send it to the detective bureau, and then they're gonna should see it that it was jet skis or something that's up through the water, and then they're gonna email the reports to me. So it's a couple days.
But
But
it's not immediate.
no, it's not immediate. It just has to go through vetting before that. But right away, it is entered in CIC, FCIC. So if any officer in the whole country stops a jet ski, runs the FLs or runs a HIN, then they're gonna know it's stolen.
And what we found, I live in Lauderdale Harbors, and we have some bus. But the guy next door to me put one of those Apple buttons on his golf cart. Came out in the morning, saw that, called the police, and took him right to the spot.
Yeah. That is definitely a.
And I have it on my boat, have it on my golf cart, and in my cars.
Yep.
And when I move around, it'll tell me I'm moving around.
Yeah. Yep.
Really neat tool, not very expensive either.
If I got one of my dogs. He likes to run.
What's the next 30 days look like for you? Any expected coming up?
No, no, just.
No, it's legal.
Until Maryland, until the air show, we start arguing for that.
Oh, that's exciting. It's
Yeah.
nice to think about. So nobody told me that I missed approval of the minutes. I did almost intentionally. I'm assuming everybody read the minutes. It was a long, kind of fun meeting last month. Great job. Anybody have any questions or comments? A motion to approve the minutes, please. Second, Ed. Everybody approves, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We have a dock permit. We have one dock permit on 607 Cordova Road. I don't think they're room back, I'm sure. Bear with me a second. I believe we have Mike Patino is going to speak. Mike and Bethany Patino are the applicants and they live there. Please come on up, step up. It's a friendly group of people, despite the fact that we don't have a dais to give you. So Mike and Bethany, the owner of the property, as you folks are all aware, Cordova Road has been an ongoing issue with us and has been handled, I want to say, very well by this board of the town. Mike and Bethany bought the property, and when you repurchase a property that had gone through this, you need to basically cover the front of the requirements. So if you can speak for a minute, what we can look at.
Sure, we bought the house at 7 Cordova.
Excuse me, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Mike Patino. Okay. And we're interested in using the existing dock that was previously permitted, same address for our own personal vessel.
This is relatively straightforward. Folks understand what's going on. There's no material changes. There's nothing whatsoever we're involved in here. There's simply, again, it's the oddest thing I've seen, but and I don't think it's a bad idea to make sure that there's still a governing board here. Does anybody have any questions to the applicant? Does anybody want any further information on this? Come on, give him a little mark.
Well, this is as straightforward as it comes. The dock's already there, so it's not a new construction.
So, I hate to make it that easy for you, because it was kind of a contentious. Does anybody have a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
The first is Ed, second is Elizabeth. How about a roll call? We have a motion to approve, and a second by Elizabeth George. How about we put this to a vote, please?
Okay. Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. Lynch.
Yes.
Mr. Brunel,
Yes.
Ms. Norvell,
Yes.
Mr. Knott,
Yes.
Ms. George.
Yes.
Mr. Washington,
Yes.
Mr. Reepholz,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Chair Whitten.
Yes.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
She's staying for the rest of the day. Well, congratulations.
So, I'm not sure we're on the same page here. Are we all set? So we have our industry expert, in this case, is Shelby Thomas. Shelby Thomas is CEO of Ocean Rescue Alliance International. Shelby is unable to join us in person, but is doing so via Zoom, which is kind of interesting to try to coordinate. I want to make sure she's on. Can we tell if she's on?
Yep.
Yes, okay. So if I can, the first time doing this on Zoom, be a long time. Can we toss it to you, Shelby? Are you there somewhere?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Wonderful. Yeah. Can we make that screen full? There, wonderful. Shelby, thank you very much. I had, as I continued kind of exploring industry experts to meet with, Shelby was somebody that came up. Shelby, let me put you on hold for 1 second, please. Well, then come over here. So that was John Herbst, guys. I'm sorry. So go ahead, Shelby, please. So I'm sorry. So Shelby runs an organization called Ocean Rescue Alliance, which is based in Apollo, Florida. Ocean Rescue Alliance is a 501c3 nonprofit doing what I think is extremely exciting work. Most recently, near us in Palm Beach County, a project that was known as 1,000 Mermaids Artificial Reef. If any of you guys dive, you know what it is. I was excited because Shelby's doing a lot of things in her organization, do a lot of things with respect to clean water, regentrification of reefs, etc. And she's gracious enough to join us. And Shelby, I'm going to toss it to you, please.
Sure, no problem. Well, pleasure to meet you guys. Happy New Year. And wish I could be there in person, but hopefully can come to another one day. We're actually mostly based in South Florida. We have 5 artificial reef sites throughout the southeast coast of Florida. So we'll get into talking a little bit about that here. So I have a short presentation just to get you guys up to speed on some of our work that's in your backyard, and also some opportunities that we have coming in the future that we'd love to share with you guys. And just to confirm, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, awesome. Well, so my name's Shelby, as he mentioned. I'm the founder and CEO of the Ocean Rescue Alliance International, and we're a marine conservation and restoration nonprofit that implements these waves of action. We really focus on building artificial infrastructure that helps replicate natural reef geology and also aid in the restoration of corals, oysters, and mangroves. Also unique, we create artistic artificial reefs that are meant to really create a connection back to the ocean. These also create ecotourism destinations that further connect community. And at every site, we also implement education and citizen science programs, further partnerships with academic institutions, and continue research to contribute to sustainable restoration. A little bit on our coral reefs in Florida. If, as you guys are a Water Council, you may know a lot of this information already, but we have the 3rd largest reef in the world. And coral reefs around the world are one of the biggest biodiversity hubs, one of the most biodiverse ecosystems in the world, and they help prevent coastal erosion, aid in restoration, of course, have a variety of ecosystem services, but of course, they also have economic importance, over $3.4 billion value just in the state of Florida alone. And there's a lot of problems plaguing our reef systems around the globe, from ocean acidification, pollution, habitat degradation, as well as disease. And specific to Florida, if you guys caught this past summer, we had one of the worst bleaching events recently due to temperature. In previous years, in 2015, we had a huge disease outbreak from stony tissue loss disease, which now has come a little bit more under control. But there's been a variety of issues that have been really decimating our Florida reef tract. And one of the biggest problems I see as a scientist is actually one less scientifically rooted, but a missing connection between people and ocean resources. Often the ocean's out of sight, out of mind, and many may feel too small to help. So one thing we really strive as an organization is making very tangible, direct impacts that every individual can make and participate in with our organization, which we'll get to here shortly. I first wanted to talk a little bit about the history of artificial reefs and how we're unique and a little bit different. Historically, artificial reefs have really been what you see on the left-hand side of the screen. Typically trash of land, construction pilings, culverts, ships, and even the 2 million tires that were sunk off of Fort Lauderdale back in the 80s. And although a lot of these reef sites actually do create habitat, they also typically lack eco-friendly materials and lack biodiversity space of complex habitat that mimics reefs. So what we focus on is designing artificial reefs very intentionally to mimic natural reef geology. And as you can see, one of our structures on the right-hand side of the screen, this is one of our habitat reef modules that has micro and macro habitat to support different life stages of fish, but also incorporate restoration technologies. One of our patented technologies is the Coral Lock, which is a threaded frag plug where we can simply screw in a coral fragment just like you would a bolt. And in addition, these materials are made out of an eco-friendly concrete that's pH neutral. And so we're really trying to take design and innovation to create different types of structures that aid in restoration and rebuilding reef systems. This is an example of one of those reef modules. You can see 1 week versus 9 months post-deployment, and you can see the different fish recruitment there. In addition to habitat reefs, we also have designs that are meant for other purposes, like coastal protection. Our breakwaters are built to produce 75% of wave energy when implemented in scale, restoration of corals, oysters, and mangroves, fish habitat and aiding in biodiversity, and also ecotourism. And so the ecotourism element, really the art, is the unique factor that we hope incentivizes community members, cities, and counties to get engaged with restoration in a very customizable, unique way. One of our biggest eco art projects is the 1,000 Mermaids, which we actually started out as that nonprofit and merged that into Ocean Rescue Alliance just a few years ago. This project started in West Palm Beach, and as you can see here, we can actually 3D scan people and turn them into life-size mermaids underwater. And our purpose with that mission is to really use the symbol of the mermaid and that half human, half fish connection to bring awareness to marine conservation and connect people back to the ocean. We now have a lot of other art initiatives. We're building a Mayan reef in Mexico, working with a Mayan native community, doing a serpent deity called the Cluclan. That project I'm most excited about because it's our first culturally relevant reef site, and it really story tells into not only the community and culture, but enables to actually provide jobs and actual other avenues to do restoration more sustainably for that community. And we're hoping to do more of that here in South Florida. We actually have 4 reef sites that we're starting this year right off of Hollywood, Florida, as well as building out Reef Line, which is going to be a 7-mile underwater art park. In addition, we also take 3D scans. We take those digital assets and we're making virtual and augmented realities to allow anyone to dive from their computer or at home and bring different learning experiences for kids. Here's some different art initiatives that we have. Again, the top left is from the 1,000 Mermaids project that started in West Palm Beach, and we now have a site as well in Hollywood, Florida. We have one of our industrial dive suit modules that's over at Hollywood as well. And we also are doing memorial reefs. So there's ways that every individual can get engaged, whether it's celebrating an anniversary or a loved one who's passed away, to create custom reefs or even adopt a coral. And our most recent reef site was with the city of Hollywood. This is actually Mayor Josh Levy diving with us on the right, which was incredible to have him out, and also Louis Gary on the left, who did a report on this site. So it was a pretty unique dive to take them out and really see that firsthand. I'd say one of the most rewarding things about doing this work is you can really see the impact. I like to say, as the old architecture saying of, if you build it, they will come. That's quite true with the fish. And so it's really rewarding just to see habitat created and fish instantly move into that reef the night of even. So we're actually excited to be developing 4 new reef sites with Hollywood this year, and we hope to expand throughout all of South Florida. The art initiatives have not been announced yet. We are continuing one of those sites as a mermaids site, but the remaining 3 are going to be new art initiatives tied and directed by the city. Again, once those sites are created, we really create that localized engagement with youth and the community, conducting workshops, beach and dive site cleanups, monitoring efforts, as well as restoration. We have a STEM program that we're really trying to target engaging underprivileged youth and community members to bring awareness to marine resources, but also new job opportunities. We have a huge blue economy that we're trying to promote. Here in South Florida, we have one of the biggest resources right at our fingertips that we also need to protect. Our Coral Rangers program really focuses on the restoration of our coral reef ecosystems. We've used principles like the aquarium hobby to educate about fragmenting corals and how we actually do coral restoration at scale in the ocean. And so speaking to restoration, historically, coral restoration has really been done in a blanketed approach. And there tends to be a variety of different bottlenecks, from being able to scale that work, the materials that are used like zip ties, nails, and epoxies, as well as different attachment techniques. So we've really kept the same, even across the industry of oysters and mangroves for the last 30 to 50 years. And so some of the inherent problems with that is we're not able to scale the amount of corals that we're needing to outplant to what we need to do for restoration. And so that's where some of our technologies come in. And to date, we've actually outplanted over 30,000 corals with different universities and academic partners and coral practitioners here in South Florida. The Coral Locks enabled us to simply screw in coral fragments. So all of our artificial structures are outfitted with these coral fragment plugs where we can easily attach corals that are being grown by our partners. And these are some of our different base attachments. So we do, aside from the larger infrastructure, smaller structures that we can actually outplant on natural reefs and help aid in scaling restoration. We actually design these to be very site specific. So one example of that, you can see in the left-hand side of the screen, we actually created a sea urchin house dome where we can outplant the corals and the sea urchins help maintain the algae around those corals. In another instance, we actually made one similar to the one on the right as the dome. University of Miami was having a problem with parrotfish predation in Key Biscayne, where those nice fresh baby coral fragments were looking very tasty to the parrotfish. And so we made a modification to create spikes that came out of those bases to where the parrotfish cannot predate upon those corals. So we had an immediate 90% survivorship just from making these small modifications. So we really advocate for informing our designs based off of local ecology and staying really scientifically rooted in nature. Some other examples, we were able to outplant staghorn very efficiently with our new cup attachment bases, opposed to having to use cements and epoxies to attach them at 3 points. And I'll leave you here with really just our envisionment for coastlines around the world. We're really wanting to build ecosystems that help support, protect against coastal erosion, support marine life, and aid in restoration of corals, oysters, and mangroves, but also use art to create a connection back to the public and create a destination that not only serves the community, but helps the environment in the process. And one thing we really like to encourage is everyone can help. We have lots of ways to engage, whether it be volunteering, or if you want to create your own reef module, adopt a coral, or even become part of one of our programs or dive with us. Many things that you can do. So happy to take any questions you guys may have at this time.
So Shelby, first of all, that was outstanding. There's a number of folks that have joined us here. John Herbst is a city commissioner who's listening. You also have, no pressure here, but you have Chairman of the Department of Ocean and Mechanical Engineering. Welcome, sir. So you got a good audience, and you impressed the hell out of me, and I hope the rest of the folks here, but this was a very effective presentation. And I don't know, I will tell you, for all of us, firsthand experience myself, being in the Keys this summer where the temperature on my depth sounder was 100 degrees, and seeing the damage to the coral, we know firsthand what's going on here. So I'd like to end, before I toss, to say, what can we do to help you? And I see that. So I will follow up with you offline here, but I'm going to open up. Does anybody have any questions or comments to Shelby? Yes, sir.
What is your, Shelby, what is your source of funding?
That's a
Is
great
there
question.
government involved or?
Yeah, so we have a variety of different projects funded in various ways. Some of our reefs have been funded through municipal agencies. So actually the Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA for the City of Hollywood, funded our Hollywood Reef site. But we often try to couple that with bringing in grants from NOAA, NSF grants, or local artificial reef grants. Because we also have some different art culture related, we can also do tourism related or art in public places funding. So we've been able to fund a lot of this work in creative ways, which is what's very inspiring. as well as private donations and corporate sponsors. So we typically identify a place that we can do a project and then work to engage local partners so we can kind of share the distribution of project cost.
Outstanding. Anybody else?
And I'll make a comment really quick back to what you mentioned for the 101 degree surface temperatures that we had this past summer.
No, not
Um,
surface temperature, water temperature. The water
Yes, it
temperature.
was the water temperature. We were part of a lot of coral rescues during that time period. And so my background, I actually am a coral geneticist, finishing my PhD with the University of Florida. So I have a background in restoration and ecology. And I think one of the most promising thing about artificial reefs is we have the ability to really meet climate adaptation in its face and create marine infrastructure and bases for reef restoration further northward, where we can actually start growing corals. And so actually the corals in this photo that you see right here, what were outplanted in West Palm as part of an assisted migration study. So we're part of a lot of really foundational research that's going to be helping transform and rebuild our Florida reef track. And we believe in using artificial reefs as a bridge to build that foundation and scale restoration efforts more sustainably. And so, I'm glad to hear a lot of the people in the audience have a little bit more of an insight. But you guys also are probably aware of how many people who are native and live to Florida that might not be aware of some of these issues and the precedence of needing to take action now for some of these resources to be here for our future.
Perfect. Very concise, wonderful presentation. Again, I'll follow up with you tomorrow offline. Perhaps we can get some materials from you, we can hand out, et cetera. But let's see what we can do to support you. And thank you, guys. Thank you very much again.
No
Have a
problem.
nice evening.
You too.
So we had, let's take a second and digress. I'm going to introduce Commissioner John Herbst. I don't mean to be presumptuous, assume we all know him, because I'm going to say it's just the opposite. So I'm going to bore you with a brief introduction, which I took off of John's page in the town, because I'm really impressed.
All made up.
Well, I grew up in Connecticut, and I know what Stuyvesant,
The only part that's real is the dog.
I know what Stuyvesant High School was. So that's a close immense a candidate as you can get to join that. But John was in the Marine Corps. Thank you for that service. He earned a bachelor's degree from Baruch College, City University of New York, and later an MBA from the University of North Florida. John's the real deal, guys. He also attended a government program at Harvard University. I say he's a real deal because when you email him, he responds right away. So I appreciate the opportunity for you to join us. We haven't had you before, and it means a great deal to us. If anybody has comments, questions, I didn't want to put you in a corner if you have anything special to say, but
No, let me just say, again, thank you to everybody. You know, I've been with the city now 17 years. We've got 40 plus boards. And getting people to volunteer is very hard. Getting them to show up is even harder, as you know. A lot of our boards, we can't get full, you know, and it's very difficult for us to actually get anything accomplished. You know, I've always been very impressed over the years at the amount of engagement that we have from folks in our community. I've worked in 3 cities now so far, Neptune Beach, City of Jacksonville, you know, down here in Fort Lauderdale. And I've never seen as much engagement as I have down here. People really love this community. They show up, they volunteer, they put their time into it. And I know through the years, as I sat there as the auditor, just watching the commission engage with the advisory boards, how much they rely on the work that you all do. I mean, really do. We can't be experts in everything, you know, and we value very much the input. We don't always listen to you. I will tell you that. I've watched that through the years. But the input, the expertise that you bring to the table really helps us drive our decision making. And so I just want to say, I can tell you, I appreciate it. You know, marine advisory boards are a particularly important one for me. We all know how important the marine industry is to Fort Lauderdale. And the hardest part that you deal with is something that I deal with all the time. And it's balancing out the different interests of the city. So, you know, we've got residential boaters, we've got the commercial industry, you know, we've got the industry upriver, and we've got folks like the Caribbean that operate in our downtown area. And trying to balance out all these competing interests is one of the most difficult things that we do as a commission it's the same thing that you have to deal with all the time. And so it's like I was telling somebody the other day, I feel like King Solomon cutting the baby in half the time. You know, I know with every decision I make, I'm pissing off half the people in town. And that's what you guys have to deal with. And it's a very difficult job and I appreciate what you're up against. And so I can say thank you. You know, just watching that, I dive. I've been diving down here ever since I moved down here 15 years ago. I've seen the change in the reefs down here and it's tragic. It really is. You know, we see what's happening out there. You know, I don't want to get into a whole long thing about global warming and this and that and everything else, but we do see the effect. We see what's actually happening out there. And I applaud the efforts of folks that are out there reseeding. You know, at some point I keep thinking if I ever retire, you know, I'm gonna start getting out there and doing that and helping. But I don't seem to be able to get to retirement, so we're working on it. But no, again, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for letting me have the opportunity just to come and listen and participate.
It means a great deal, and I think that we're all living our retirement here. For a lot of guys, as you get older, retirement's simply not in your vocabulary. You know, what I found is retirement simply means you're working, you're not getting paid for it.
You're working twice as hard for less money.
Exactly.
That's perfectly fine. You know, and as I shared with John, the importance of, you know, any team needs a leader stopping by once in a while, and it really means a great deal to know you guys are listening. So I appreciate that. Anybody have comments, questions, feel free. You mentioned the Carrie B. Jordan's here. There's an ongoing issue with Carrie B.
I've just found out about it and I immediately engaged with the city manager and his assistant city managers to interject myself into that conversation.
It's not on the agenda, but you mentioned it and Jordan's kind enough to stop by. And there's probably no place for this in politics, but this is something I look at very closely. My understanding from Dave Jordan, who happens to be a very fine gentleman, who's been doing this for 31 years. That to me, if you're in real estate, you have an adverse possession claim after 15.
Right.
So they have a right to be in this town. And there's a lot of folks here that respect the hard work. And when we're joking with Sergeant O'Neill, when the boat parade was canceled, the Carrie B was lit up, welcoming folks.
Right.
You know, there was a Christmas spirit going on. So I appreciate you mentioning that.
There's
It's nice to know
the
that.
community, and I think it's very important that we recognize that we've got businesses that have been here for decades that are cultural institutions for us. You know, that are part of the fabric of our community. They're part of our tourists. You know, when folks come to town, what do? You take them out on things like this. Whenever anybody comes to town, I get them out on the road. I get them out on the Intracoastal. In fact, so I'll cheat and I'll show you. So I had to get dressed up in the parking lot before I came in, right? So I've got my boating shirt on. I was out on the boat all day today. Just drove down. I was up at Boynton out on a boat. I just drove down here for this.
Thank you.
So again, changing the parking lot. So, you know, as you all know, I don't need to tell you this, we're all about being on the water. You know, as soon as we got out there today, my wife took one look at me as we're pulling out into the Intracoastal. She said, I love this. You know, just being on the water, it's so invigorating. It's so restorative, you know, and that's what our community is really all about. We are a water-based community and we need to respect that. We need to respect the businesses that have been here. And when people come to town, we introduce them to our lifestyle. I talked to 4 people today that are moving down from New York. And they're moving down here because of what we have. And we have to just keep reinforcing that and driving with people. This is a lifestyle that we have. And our lifestyle revolves around the water. Even if you don't live on the water, it's the access to the water. It's knowing that it's there. It's being able to get out on it. And I continually tell people, this is what makes Fort Lauderdale such a great place to be. And it's respecting our institutions is so important to me.
Very true. But I think one of the things I've noticed over the past few months as we've been focusing on the moratorium, and I've had folks mention this to me, it's not everybody's a mariner. So the same way that you could relate to that video and say, I dive, I know what that is. If you're not a mariner, you may not understand the complexity of the New River. You may not understand how difficult it is for a guy like Dave Jordan to spin around. But if we move him to the south side, he's out of business.
Right.
If we move him farther west, he might as well be out of business. Sorry, Dave. But, you know, so this is something that I and other people on this board take very seriously. That's why we're doing this. So thank you for mentioning. Anything else? Truly a pleasure, and I can't thank you enough for stopping by, please.
Just one question. Listening to this young woman that presented today, it was awesome hearing it, but she kept saying Hollywood and Palm. She
Right.
wasn't mentioning Fort Lauderdale.
So it's interesting that she was talking about how they're using the CRA money. So the CRA in Hollywood encompasses a big chunk of the city, all of downtown and all the beach.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate because our beach CRA just sunsetted, I think, 2 years ago.
Right,
The Northwest Progresso is sunsetting in 2025. The beach sunsetted, I think it was 21 or 22.
I think,
I wish that we had identified that as a need for the city, because candidly, we had money that we could have targeted towards a program like this. Had we known
personally, I
about
would have liked that more than moving palm trees, but.
it. I'm with you. We've done a lot of progress. So, you know, when we got to the end of life of each CRA, there was this mad rush to spend money.
Yeah.
And I will tell you candidly, this, I was still the auditor at the time. I shook my head a lot at some of these projects, because I'm thinking, they're just not adding value. They're really not. They're not. Let's just leave it at that. They're not adding value.
Well, and being somebody that lives down there, I can tell you, one of the challenges I think is the vocal people that live down there are not boaters.
Right.
They like the beach. They're not scuba divers.
Right.
I do both of those things. And so they don't know of the value of what we're talking about with that. They all think the beach is pretty.
Right.
And they look at the sand, they look at the buildings, they look at, you know, so they're enjoying it, but they're not the loud voices like myself talking about, you know, the fact I'm here, I'm at the events
Right.
committees. I'm a very active
So
Central
9
Beach
o'clock tomorrow
person.
morning, I'm going to the Las Olas Marina. So I think.
I
we
live
started
next
talking
door.
About this about 10 years ago, when we first started saying, I remember when somebody said, hey, let's dredge out the parking lot. I'm like, are you crazy? I'm gonna dredge out the parking lot at the beach and, you know, and I'll be going there tomorrow, look at.
Well,
how
it
it's
used to be
going.
water though.
I know, but it was water.
And then we
And-
filled it in and we did a shitty job with all the.
So I was talking, I think it was Robert Walker was telling me that his dad was involved with that back.
Yeah, he
in
was.
the Late 50s, early 60s,
Yeah.
roughly, when they filled that all in.
Yep,
So, yeah, so we fill it all in, and I'm like, by the way, only government does this, right? We take something, we fill it in, and then 30 years later, we come back and dig it all out again.
and we have no drawings for what we filled in
I
the
have
ground.
no idea.
so,
what that-
Yeah,
Every time
yeah.
we stick a shovel in the ground, we find something we didn't know was there.
yeah. I live next door to it, so I'm, yeah.
But, you know, those are the kinds of projects that we talk about that I think are transformational. You know, and when Barry talked to me years ago about, it, he's like, yeah, we want 6,000 lineal feet out there. I'm like, you're crazy. Like, we're never gonna do that. We will never dredge this out. We'll never do this. And we're doing it. Because these are things that are gonna make a difference for the next 50 years. You know, I mean, really, these are generational projects that change stuff. And I think that's what's so important. And doing something like restoring a reef out here, you know, I go up to Lauderdale by the Sea, up to Daytona, and I'll just, you know, float on out, kick out, drop down, you know, go out to the end of the pier. And 15 feet of water, and there you are, you're on reef number 1, you know, and it's stunning, it's beautiful, you know? And we need to maintain that because.
I mean, we do have some nice ones off of there that are natural.
Yep, and I know
Fort
there's some
Lauderdale.
folks that go down off of, you know, off the park down in Hollywood, and they'll do the same thing. Okay, there's a couple of dive groups that I've been involved with that'll do that. But, you know, having that accessibility, there aren't very many places where you can go diving without having to have a boat to get there. You know, without going on a dive boat or getting somebody's boat. So, you know, we've got so much. I was telling somebody just the other day, I'm like, we live in the dive capital of the world here.
Yeah.
You know, there's a handful of places that people come from all over the world to dive, and this is it, you know, and so I wish we still have our CRA up and running, because I would absolutely advocate putting money towards this program, because it sounds like an amazing one. I wish we could. I don't know that we can do anything now where our budget is, candidly. I'll tell you who I'd love to see throw money at this, so feel free to start advocating. Convention is good if you're just spent $790,000 to send the float out to the Rose Bowl parade. Imagine what that would do to actually restore the reef. Yeah. You know.
No,
Just saying.
Just saying, yeah.
Weekend or a reef that lasts a lifetime.
I like,
We're all afraid
Yeah.
to touch that.
I have no problem saying it. You know? Look, I piss people off all the time. I think,
That's, you know what, it's, but you touched on something that's very important to us, the term generational. The reason that we've been focusing on this moratorium on the river has nothing to do with us today.
Sure.
You know, it is generational.
Right.
And if somebody doesn't put their foot down or really put the brakes on some of this, or conversely, you know, start putting some money into the reefs, et cetera, we're gonna leave our kids totally bleached out reefs, because that's what I saw in the Keys.
Oh, yeah, like you said, you know, that, when I was reading about 100-degree temperatures in the water,
It's legit.
Lord, I can make a cup of tea out of it.
Yeah.
So,
So, by the way, we have, the next one is, we have a couple industry experts. We have captains for clean water that are actually pretty interesting, that will join us. So what do we need to be doing that we're not doing? Is there anything special that we can be doing to help you?
No, I think what you guys have all been focusing on, I mean, so obviously, again, not telling you anything you don't already know. We know that most of what comes to the commission, obviously, is dock waivers and things like that. That has been, you know, since I've been here, I've been watching this, you know, the most contentious things I've seen are, you know, some of the things along Middle River, you know, you know, part of the area in Victoria Park is this a commercial marina over there or are these private homes? You know, these are the things that I see as the ongoing battles. And again, it comes back to you as trying to balance out the interests of different parties. And again, it's a challenge. So, you know, again, I value your expertise. You know, I mean, and you know, the good thing is we got great staff engagement, you know, that have been here for a long time that are able to provide, you know, some of that perspective from the internal side. So again, like I said, we rely very heavily on what you bring to us. I know I do. You know, when I see these items come up and I see how the board has looked at it and how they voted on it, I rely very heavily on it. But again, you know, like I said, it's about juggling the interests of, you know, because look, I got a little 21-foot pontoon boat, you know, so I'm not, you know, I'm not taking up a whole lot of space on the water when I'm running the ring, you know, so, but we have to be mindful of the small boater. You know, the guy who's trailing it and dropping it down the boat ramp, you know, that's just as important. To me, they are just as important a user of the waterway as everybody else that's out there. So again, balancing the commercial interests with small boaters, and so that everybody gets to enjoy the waterways. You know, it's respecting the interests of all the parties that utilize those waterways. And again, that's where it's so important, you know, for the feedback and the input that we get from you. Really is. So again, like I said, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Well, it works two ways. And again, having you stop by, to be able to have a rapport with the folks that you work with or work under is really meaningful. So folks, if you don't know how to get in touch with John, I'll show you, but it's a two-way street, man, you know, so it works both ways. So thank you.
I'm happy for the input. So yeah, feel free anytime. Just reach out to me. But you know, I've got two amazing assistants. One, I'm about to lose her. Unfortunately, she's having a baby. I told her that's not allowed.
You're late for that.
She didn't listen to me. So it's funny, actually. I've got two really amazing women working here right now, Amanda and Melissa. And Amanda's getting married this weekend, and Melissa's giving birth next weekend. And somebody said, "What's going on in your office?" Something
In the water.
Something in the water. Apparently, everybody's really happy.
Well, thank you. So you get to go kiss babies now, the homeowners.
That's it. Yep. I'm running off to Coral Shores after this.
Thank you for making time.
Yep. Matter of fact, I got a dash up there. I gotta be up there at 7 o'clock. Everybody, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank
Take care, John.
Thanks.
Good to see you, buddy. Thank you so much. Everybody, take care. Good to see you. Yeah, you all again. Okay? Thank you.
Take care.
So, that was meaningful. Thank you, John, for bringing up to Jordan. So I know that Dave stopped by to kind of hear all about. I appreciate him bringing it up. Do you have anything you'd like to mention, Dave? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we understand your position there.
Oh, thank you. We're humble.
So there's an issue with the Carrie B. It's, I don't think this is any surprise that the town, there are folks that would like to move to Carrie B. There are folks that would like to see the Carrie B be on the south side of the river. That's a tough spot there, we believe, as you review that. And such a big ass boat, 110 feet. 115 by 22. Yeah. So you don't have a lot of room. You don't have a lot of room to turn around, et cetera. So there are a number of folks that are very concerned that when somebody's been an integral part of the community for 31 years, that probably you should pay attention to them, their needs, et cetera. So there's a lot of folks that care about you and the Carrie B. I guess we'll just leave it at that and say that there are folks working. It sounds like John is concerned and others. It's a sensitive subject because it's political, but if anybody wants to say anything, feel free. Please do.
It is political, I guess, started that, but to move the vote further west at the request of a local bar owner, to me isn't fair because there are reported 36 people requesting dockage on the wait list for the river. Some of them as long as 2.5 years. 4 of them 100 feet or above. To leapfrog this guy's boat over the 200 footers, 36 boats and then wait 2 years, I think is wrong. Totally wrong. And it's totally politically driven. We're also entering into the moratorium on the river that the commission has approved. And part of that is not only the waivers that we're restricting, putting a hold on till we get stakeholders input. It also included safety. And here we are considering allowing a vessel that's been in its position for 31 years to go further west, try to back out between 2 boats into the channel, back all the way down to the tunnel and turn around there. That's just wrong, and the Coast Guard, as of yesterday, is very much aware of this and are monitoring this conversation tonight at our meeting and plan to take action through their prevention department. They have an entire department for waterway prevention of accidents, things that could happen. So that's where we are at this point, and the Carrie B responded to a request 2 months ago where they addressed that, well, maybe they're causing a bottleneck. The owners invited the city manager, assistant city manager, district commissioner. They went on the boat, they backed up. They bottleneck. Carrie B staying where it is. Then politics get further involved in it. Now they're being asked to move further to the west. The option input is that, well, we're trying to keep you on the south side of the river, but if we have, or on the north side of the river, but if we have to, we'll move you to the south side. That's the kiss of death. There's no way to access the buses, the public. That's an area that's pump out for the city, fuel delivery, so other suggestions about, well, turning around where you are, you can't spin 115-foot boat where they are now. Safe. Hopefully the board will be kept abreast. That's another thing. This is an item that's totally bypassed us. And under our charter, commercial activity, commercial leases on the river should come to us. This is something that's going right up to the city manager. That, to me, I think is wrong for us. So hopefully we'll have input going further. Whatever Coast Guard reviews or opinions. I'm sure Steve will pass that.
Comments or thoughts, anybody, Bill, anything?
No, I think, it's such a big operation. It's been there so long. We have this moratorium coming up. I mean, why doesn't the safety aspect of the whole thing that's being presented to the Coast Guard, EAM for the next year, all this stuff. I mean, it's all about safety and movement on the river. And you can't take a 115-foot boat, turn around a 100-foot spot. It won't work.
So.
Well, it won't work once. But I think if, that commercial operation should, I don't know why, I mean, moving other things around, but I mean, it's been there for that long. Sometimes it sounds like a land taking.
Look, I don't, first of all, I appreciate John bringing it up. Subject that's been in the background, so I thank him for bringing it up, and so I thank Jordan for stopping by. This goes back to the comment that John made about this being generational. And why are we talking about this? You gotta excuse my friends, because we give a shit. We really care about the community and we want to take care of each other. And again, I look at the Caribbean as being as important a part of this community as anybody else. If I said to somebody up in the Northeast who visited here, I said, so I heard you took a ride on the water. You're going to hear two names, Caribbean or Jubilee, no disrespect to the water tax. But they all know it. They know the boats. So let's see what we can do to keep it like that, but we'll leave it at that unless anybody has further questions. Thank you very much. So quickly, with respect to ongoing discussion on the New River moratorium, Bob Dunkel did not make it tonight. I hope he's well, but that also changes what we will talk about. We're running kind of late in a few things. A quick update. We attended the planning and zoning meeting on December 20th. We had Courtney Day, Phil Purcell, Patience, of course, joined. Bob Dunkel led the group, and I want to say we did an admirable job. We had unanimous support for the moratorium and we're nudging it forward. Beyond that, I can't speak to the legal aspect other than we're trying to move this thing down the road. One of the things we talked about is when can we start having meetings, kind of public meetings. And from a timing standpoint, it looks like perhaps in discussing this with Andrew, that we might talk about having a special meeting on the March 1st meeting, where when I say special meeting, we have our meeting on Thursday the 1st, but instead of meeting at 6, we can either meet at 5 or we could have the meeting go later. I don't really care whatever anybody wants to do, but as Andrew has said, by doing that, we don't have to inform the public that it's a special public meeting.
Well, no, I have to. Well,
No, I don't mean that.
okay.
But if we carve out one day for it, then we have to open it up to, but this is already opened up.
I just have to advertise it in addition to the Marine Fire.
We're waiting for it, and so Jimmy Harrison had lobbed in a comment that Andrew shared with me that we may have to wait because the bathymetric survey is not done yet. What's the update on that? Turning talks. Oh, John.
I think it's the whole commission this month. The second meeting, which is it the 26th, Andrew?
Something around there, yeah, but that's the goal right now.
Yeah, I mean, the paperwork is done, it's going through the process, of working its way through the city attorney's office and manager and all that stuff.
So this will have to be a work in progress. Time we'll have to see, we'll have to adjust it. We'll talk to Dunkel, we'll find out when the bathymetric survey's in, but obviously unless we're able to define the depths, we can't even continue to talk about this, so that'll be on hold a little bit. Any comments, questions, etc.? Nothing else on the moratorium. We have prepared a map, by the way, that we use in the presentation that shows the beginning and the end of the area of the moratorium. We're going to print this in very large sheets so we can use it next time, and I'll have that for the next meeting. One of the comments, guys, and I'm not picking on anybody particularly, but this is a team effort. Bob Franks was kind enough to lob in a long email on thoughts on how he sees the evolution of the new river, and Norbert shared some comments. And I've had some from other guys as well. I don't want to just start leaving here, so if you have some comments, some thoughts, if you don't mind, I don't care if you're chicken scratches. Send them to Andrew so he's gonna add and put together a master list. And so it looks like we're gonna put this off to February discussion. Anything else on the moratorium? That was, I see everyone's getting tired. Okay, old new
I have
business.
a quick question.
Please.
Is there any movement on the little Florida house guy? Cause he just ripped the house down.
Yeah, he did. He's, so I have a dialogue with him.
Right.
Rich Steiner, real nice guy. They're putting up a 5-bedroom, 2-story house there. And obviously the waterfront, the seawall, an integral part of it. I know nothing more than that. But yeah, that house is gone, by the way. So,
Steve,
yeah,
if he were to, so obviously if he built a dock there, it would really impede the commercial traffic, going in and out. Would it be theoretically possible to offer some sort of like compensation in lieu of him building a dock there? Like he could get a permit for one of the docks, like downtown or something like that, maybe? So he would have availability to put a boat, so he wouldn't be inclined to add a dock at Little Florida?
It's not, it's an observation deck. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
well, he
Excuse
has
me,
a dock. It'll be,
Please be chair. Can you identify yourself and make your comment? Marine Industries. It's an observation deck.
so he has
Okay.
an observation deck at
Yeah.
the very point, and he has a dock on the.
We already have.
Well, there's the whole thing goes around, there's a dock on the other side that's gonna
Right,
be.
the west side.
Yeah, we had talked about him moving, I had talked about with no permission, et cetera, would he consider moving farther west? Nothing's happening there, I don't think. I mean, if anybody's aware, Rich Steiner's a very nice guy. Again, it's always difficult when if you like putting your hands in your pocket. We'll continue the dialogue, but I'm not aware of anything going on there.
I'll find out more. And I'll let you know.
Just curious.
But we'll keep that dialogue going. I've asked him to join us a few times. He always has a good reason, and I'm sure part of it is intimidation. But I don't want that to be the case, so we see if we can get into another meeting. Old new business, anything else from anybody? I mentioned that we have Captains for Clean Water coming next month. It's a very interesting organization. There's another organization that is interested in speaking to us. I'm really upset that I don't remember the name, but it's an organization that benefits by using large boats to take people with special needs and disabilities out. It's a great organization. I said, I know a couple captains here, so they'd like to speak with us as well. So before we wrap up, please, Elizabeth, you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I know, John Herbst mentioned he was going to the marina tomorrow. Part of the reason he's going, and I don't know if people are aware of this, but with the new marina, obviously, there's a significant amount of seawall that's being built, and it's been built on the north side of the garage and on the west, at the east side of the west side of Birch, I guess. But and then they also had to build some more of the wall down on the south side of Las Olas. Well, there's a whole nother section that's part of the city's wall that is in horrific state. And for some reason, it was never on the city's list of walls that were going to be addressed. And one of the things that the city and Suntex Marina are working, which is part of the reason John is going to look at this so that nobody asks too many questions about it, is that their intent is to, as part of the Suntex work, continue that work all the way around to fix that seawall. In fact, Eric Metz just sent me a picture of what it looks like. It looks pretty horrific, that area. It looks pretty bad, and it's falling into the waterways and all of that, and close to the Venetian. And it's ironically enough where they built the beautiful sidewalk that has like a beautiful artistic chair for people to sit on to look over at the Swimming Hall of Fame and everything. But for some reason, the seawall was either not done or done in a half-assed manner. Is that probably the right way to describe it. And so, interestingly enough, they, it's one of those iterative operations that's happening because it started that it was only supposed to be the seawall north of Las Olas, then it was part of the seawall south of Las Olas. Now it's all the way around the bend, because of how bad it was. So I just wanted to mention that it is on the, January 9th commission agenda for them to approve, that for going through. But I wanted to make people aware of what's going on, that they are on schedule still, sort of, with the marina. But more work keeps getting added to their plethora of projects. And the Army Corps just approved them to now do the other kind of dredging. Norbert probably knows about that, what's going on there, because the dredgers were all getting broken because of all the stones that were in the water. So that was just a kind of a brief update of what's going on in that. But we're having our formal meeting next, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. So I'll send out that update and I'll send that to Andrew so everybody gets it.
Wonderful. I want a couple business items quickly. There were some date changes. I'm not sure nobody's going to write this down, but the July 4th meeting has been changed to July 9th and the November 7th to November 12th. I'm assuming that's not going to be an issue, but we'll update. There were some conflicts.
They're Tuesdays. They're being changed from Thursdays to Tuesdays. As we get closer, I'll remind everybody.
The other thing I mentioned before he walked in was Pierre Philippe, was kind enough to join us. I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge his presence here. We talked all about you before you came in. So we acknowledge who you are and I appreciate it. As I mentioned, Pierre was kind enough to respond to a message where I asked perhaps if he might be interested in speaking to us. And what he said is, I don't really know what to say. Is a world of knowledge, so let me come and hear what you guys are all about and see if perhaps I might come at a subsequent meeting. So he's here as an observer. It's safe to say FAU has a wealth of information, and if we could tap into that, it'd be wonderful. And if we end up being a test tube with them, that's okay as well. So we thank you for joining us. Anybody else? Once, twice, three. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Everybody else in agreement, say yay?
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you all.